Hi, I'm Ronnie from CNR RV. I'm going to do the walkthrough on this trailer with you today. We are in a Cedar Creek Hathaway edition, and I will take and go over some of the features and the options on the trailer and help you learn how to use them all and things that you ought to know while you're camping and using the trailer. The first thing we're going to start with is the blinds in the back. These have got some really neat blinds in them. They've got two blinds in them. Caught on the back one. The way they work is you just pull down and let go. Now when I mentioned that there's two blinds up in here, there's this one and then there's this one. So you can see the difference in them. This is a blackout shade that you can use for night and that sort of thing so people can't see in. Sometimes you want to be able to see out a little bit but not have full light coming in, and so you've got a partial shade. Again, just pull down slightly and let go. When you're bringing them down, you bring them down and just let them go. We have some lights. As I go through the different lights, I'll show you different ones. These ones above here, reading light, they actually turn on and off from here. They don't have an external light anywhere. Some of the slide ones will have a light inside the slide. You'll notice that these lights here will actually turn on and off here. Next, we've got the entertainment center. We'll start out with the TV. It's a Jensen TV that's kind of built for RVs. You see them a lot in RVs. First thing I'm going to show you is the TV itself is on a swivel bracket. If you reach up behind, there's a cable you can pull, and then you can pull the TV out. If you pull it out, you can swivel it to side. Then if you're sitting in the chairs over here, you can view the TV straight on instead of from the side. So kind of handy that way. The other thing that's nice about it is it's really great for pulling out and being able to access controls and that sort of thing from the back side. Now you can get to some of your inputs and outputs. The other thing you can access is your TV button here. Also, there's a satellite hookup back there that's kind of important to know about. If you're going to hook up satellite, get a hold of me and I'll help you with it. We have satellites available, and we've got help that we can help you set up. I could take time to tell you about the satellites, but everyone has different satellite needs, and we'd have an hour-long video just on satellites. So give me a call and I can help you with that. If you can see the green LED light there, that indicates that it's in the antenna mode. If I take and push that button right next to it, it turns off, which indicates that it's now in cable mode. So when it's in the antenna mode, there's an antenna on the ceiling that will collect antenna signals, and it will bring them up this cable to the TV, and you can set the input on your TV to TV, and you can access them. That's that antenna. They have digital antennas, digital TV. You can get very clear signals and quite a few signals just directly off from your free TV. The way you work that is you go to the TV. If it's in the antenna mode, you go to the TV and you take and change your input. Go to the menu setting on your remote. Take and go over to the far right side, and there's one that I believe says source or antenna. You click on that, and then it brings up an antenna, and you hit select auto search, and that searches for all the local antenna signals. Now, if once that's found them signals, it'll memorize them into the TV. Now, if you move from there to another location, say 30-40 miles away, them antenna signals might change, so you'll need to take and do a channel search when you get your to new location to be able to get the local channels there. Now if you're running cable, you do the same sort of thing. Some RV parks and some trailer courts have free cable, so you can take and hook up the cable on the outside. I'll show you that hookup on the outside, and then you come to the turn your switch off there so that the LED is off, indicating you're in the cable mode. Then the signal will come up the cable to the TV. Again, change your source to TV antenna or TV cable source or input, and then you come into your menu button and go over and do a channel search for all the cable channels that are available. So very, very similar operations for cable and TV. Okay, another part of the TV system is the entertainment system, the center here. This here works as a DVD unit, which you have your slot across here, but there's also things that'll do too. It's actually got some sound capability. It's got radio that's embedded in it, so you can get AM, FM. You can Bluetooth your phone to it and take music and that sort of thing off from your phone, Bluetooth it here and bring it out over the sound system. It's got A, B, and C speakers. This trailer does not use C, it just uses A and B. A being the inside speakers through here, B being your outside speakers. So you could turn them on and off with these buttons here. It's got an app option that you can take and download an app to your phone and control the stereo with your phone. There's also remotes that go with it. This actually is the remote that goes to the TV. This one is the one that goes to the entertainment center. The other option for the entertainment center is maybe you have some kind of a game console, or maybe you do want to hook your satellite up, or anything else that maybe you have a Blu-ray you want to hook up to it. You can do that through an HDMI port right here on the side. Then you go into probably HDMI 2 and you can pick up all the content that's coming through on that port there. The other thing we have is our fireplace. If we flip this up, we have manual controls here. If I turn it on here, there's several different things that we can do with this. If I turn this button here, this controls the mood effect of the fireplace. You can have it so that it's brighter or lighter, and it controls everything that way and changes the effect. Right now the heat is not on. It is just a mode, so that mood setting, so that it looks pretty and you can enjoy a fireplace without having the heat. So you can use it in the summer. Then I can come over to the heater side of it, turn it on here, and it will change the different temperatures of the heat. And that's all set right there. Now that heater is basically a 1500 watt heater, which is about comparable to most portable heaters you'll have in your house. So it doesn't put off an extreme lot of heat, but it is nice to have and use, especially if you're in a campground or somewhere that has free electricity. You can use that to kind of use as much of that as you can for the free heat, and then you can supplement it with your gas heat on your regular LP furnace. There's also a remote that will control that, and that is here in there, and that's what that remote looks like there. Okay, so that is the basic. That runs on 110 volts. If you don't have 110 hookups, you will not be able to use your fireplace. So that kind of wraps up the fireplace and the entertainment center. We'll move on to the microwave. Now we have the microwave. This is a convection oven. You can use it just like a stove at home coupled with the microwave. A lot of people, I have one of these at home. I don't use it a ton, but I know people that do use it a lot. A lot of people will cook their pizzas and they will brown a pizza and that sort of thing in there, and they use that more than they do their oven. So that is an option for you. And there's a setting here for convection. You have a hood light, and then you have a fan available to help vent. Now you have that vent option, but probably the better vent is your fantastic fan up here. That'll pull any kind of fumes or that sort of thing out of the trailer a lot faster than this will. Next we have the oven. The oven, you can take and fold the glass cooktop back like this. You can turn on the stove here, and you can light it and it'll automatically light. Now if I haven't used my trailer in a while, that would not light the first time. I had actually just lit that earlier today, so it lit right away. But if I haven't used my trailer, the gas will settle in the lines. It'll take a minute for that gas to get up here. Now that's important to know, because if I haven't used my trailer in a while, I'm going to come in and light my stove first, so that if it's going to bring gas the fastest, and once I have gas here, then I know all my other appliances will be able to light right after. Next we have the oven. Now if we turn the oven on the pilot position, this you have to light much like you do a water heater at home. If you take go to the pilot position, push in and hold it, then you can come out underneath to the orifice down underneath, light it with a lighter, and it will not work on the sparker. You have to light it with a lighter. Once that is lit, you'll see that little flame under there. It's just a little one about this big, and you wait about 15-20 seconds. Once that is warm enough to warm up the thermocouple, it'll hold the gas switch open, and then it'll stay lit. After 15-20 seconds, if I feel like it's warm enough, I'm going to let go of this. If it stays on, I'm going to go ahead and turn it to the temperature setting here, which will light the entire oven. Then I can set my temperature accordingly. When I'm done using that, I can take and turn it back to the pilot position, and if I know I'm going to be using the oven again today or maybe tomorrow, I can leave it in the pilot position and I don't have to relight it. All I have to do is just turn the thermostat on. Now, if I'm going to be headed on down the road to a new location or maybe home, I would take the time to go ahead and shut it off so that there's not a possibility of any kind of gas leakage there. When you're traveling also, you'll want to close your glass top so that it doesn't fall down. Now we're at the refrigerator. This is a Dometic refrigerator, double door. You can see that it has a huge fridge and a very large freezer, about double the size of a normal single door refrigerator. They work very well, the good refrigerators. When you come in, the switches are all on the inside of the freezer, and you have an indicator here of where things are at. If I turn the fridge on and off right here, it's going to turn on. And you can see right now it is in the auto position. That is indicated by the dot that is right next to the auto. If I go to my next button, I switch it to LP, the dot's going to switch to the LP side, indicating that it is running off from gas now. Again, we talked about an easy way to tell if we have 110 to the refrigerator is by checking the microwave and seeing if the microwave light is on. If that is on, we know we have 110 volts first. In the auto position, it's going to look for 110 volts first. If it doesn't find that 110 volts, it's going to switch over to gas. Now when it switches to, the only reason that you might want to take it out of the auto position is if you are running on a generator that might be a little marginal on power, and you don't want to take that extra fuel and working that generator and run your fridge. That fridge runs really great on LP, so you might just switch it over to LP for this camping trip and then switch it back to auto again when you get back. Auto does a great job if you're plugged into power all the time, if you might be living in it, or you're at an RV camp and you know you've got 110 volts. Then if for some reason you had a power outage, or if someone disconnected the trailer on the outside, it will automatically switch over to LP and you'll still have cooling on your refrigerator. So I would just leave it in the auto position. It does a good job, unless you're trying to run on a generator, then you could switch it to LP. And then you can set your temperature accordingly here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? 1 being your warmest, 5 being your coldest. And so that'll differentiate the different temperatures in the fridge. You can see that it reads 60 here. We just turned the refrigerator on, so it's not down to temperature. This also is an estimation. It is not an accurate temperature of the refrigerator, but it is close and it gives you an idea of what it's doing. Now, again, if I haven't used the trailer for a while and I come in and I don't light my stove and get my gas here and I turn it on here, it'll try 3 times to light. If my gas isn't up to there to light, what it'll do is after 3 times of trying to light, this will start flashing, indicating that there's a problem with the refrigerator. If I turn it off, turn it back on again, it'll start trying to relight again. And if that does, if I haven't got my gas up to there, I might have to light this fridge 5 or 6 times before it will actually light. So it's a good practice to always start the stove before you get to the refrigerator. The other thing that is handy about this refrigerator that's kind of unique to it is when I get home from camping, my fridge is going to be wet. I'm going to have frost, and that up here, this condensing unit here is going to collect a little moisture, and there's going to be moisture in that fridge. If I close them doors up, that moisture is going to start to condensate there, and it's going to start to mold inside of my fridge. I don't want that. So this has a neat little feature in that if you slide this over the top of this, you could take and push these doors shut, and it actually holds them open a little bit to be able to dry them out. And they're locked in there and they won't sit and flop around. So kind of a handy feature. I usually just keep mine up here in the freezer, that way I always know where it's at, but that's up to you. You'll find ways of handling your own camping. Now we're going to move over to the control panel and the electrical. Right here we have a control panel for all our 110 volt circuits, okay? Whoops, I turned them off accidentally. So this is all 110. You have a 50 amp service on this trailer, so one side of this panel is going to be for one side of the 50 amp service, the other side is going to be for the other 50 amp side of the 50 amp service. So that is your 110 breakers. If one is to pop, you can take and reset it by turning it on just like you do your ones at home. The 12 volt circuits in the trailer are all on fuses right here. Sometimes if you pull one of these fuses, they will light up a LED light down there like that, which indicates that that fuse is burnt. Then you're able to see easily which ones. But that's not always 110% accurate. If there isn't a load on the other end, it won't light up. Say your water pump isn't turned on, then it won't light up if it was to blow. So just something that you to know when you're looking for that. So there's all your fuses and circuit breakers for the trailer. If I come up to here, now I've got my control panel for the trailer. This here is a switch for the ceiling fan, which is 110 volts. So you could turn it on and off from that switch. Again, 110 volts. This here is the control panel for the rest of the trailer. We're going to start at the top. Right here is a water heater switch that is going to turn the gas water heater on, and it will automatically light on the outside, and it just does its thing. If it sees a problem and it doesn't light, there's an LED light here that might be hard for you to see, but it says DSI fault, which indicates, if it's red, it indicates that it did not light. Okay, so that is your DSI water heater switch. This here is your water pump switch. That is what, if you're dry camping and you don't have hookups to the outside, you're going to be pulling water out of your tank. This is the water pump that pulls that water out of the tank and pressurizes your water lines. This here is a tank heater. It's actually built, got heat mats that are hooked to the bottom of each one of your water tanks and your sewer tanks to be able to keep them from freezing. That's what this here does, is it turns them mats on. So if you're camping in a very cold location, like down under zero, and you're concerned about things freezing, you can turn that on. Now that works on a 12 volt system. And so it's going to pull directly from your batteries, and heat draws a lot of power, so it's going to drain your batteries very, very quickly. So it's not recommended that you use it as much with dry camping as when you're living in the trailer and you have hookups and be able to replenish that power by having your 110 hookups. But you don't have to worry so much about freezing in them 12 volt situations, because as long as your heater's on, you've got heat being pumped into the basement in that storage down there that will keep things from freezing also. So it's kind of a double system that you can use either way or both. Next we have our ceiling lights for the inside, turns the main lights on. This is another set of the back part of the ceiling lights. This one here is the lights over the top of the bar. This one here is the porch lights. They're out on the outside. You'll be able to see them porch lights if we was outside. This one here is an ODS, which stands for, now I can't remember what it stands for. But what it is your outside light, your big security light on the outside. This one here is your slide room control. That is overrid by this one here. So if I have it in the off position, I could take and push these buttons and my slides aren't going to go anywhere. If I turn that one on, then you can hear the pump turn on, which starts to indicate the slides moving in and out. Now on this trailer, when you take and push your slides in and out, it's a hydraulic system, so it's going to take the very lightest slide, which would be the bedroom slide. It's going to move it in next. Then it's going to take the next lightest slide, which I think on this trailer is probably this slide over here, and it's going to bring it in next, and then it'll bring this one in the very last. When it gets to the end, you'll hear it load down, kind of go, oh, you'll hear the pump kind of load down, then you know that everything's in and everything's tight. This here is your awning. In and out on the awning, just push the buttons. We're up against another trailer right now, so we're not going to take the time to push the awning out and show you it, but if you take and push the awning, hold it out, it will actually run out till it gets to the very end. On this type of awning, it does shut off. Some awnings don't do that, but this one will. And when it gets to the end, that's as far as it goes. Then to bring it back in, bring it back in. Now the automatic awnings are very, very nice in that they don't, they're easy to use. You don't have a lot of breakage in using them like the old awnings where we had steps that we had to go through to get them in and out. So they're very user-friendly. The downside of them is that they are extremely fragile in wind. Just like the old awnings, they're no different. If the wind comes up, bring that awning in. If you don't bring it in, that wind can blow it and snap it off. I've seen them come in and punch holes in the sides of trailers and on the roofs and do considerable damage. So if you're leaving the RV for any reason, bring the awning in. Now we're over here to our controls for both the heater and Fantastic Fan. We'll probably look at these in two different sections. Let's start with the Fantastic Fan. This is a very neat setup in that it runs on 12 volts, so if you're dry camping, you can use that to help pull the hot heat out of the trailer and put it outside. Also, it'll reverse, and so that you can bring heat, cool air from the inside out. If I'm dry camping and I can't run my generator and I have no way of running my AC and it's very hot out, one of the things I can do is open the windows on either side of the bed, turn this on, and it will pull air across me and up through these. So they're really, really, really nice. They will move a lot of air. The way this works is it's got two different sides. One, the manual side, which it's indicated now with the manual button. If I switch it to this side, then it goes to the auto section. Now I control the auto side by changing the temperature. If I want it to be 80 degrees in here, then it'll turn it on and off according to what it needs because of the temperature. And it'll automatically, if it gets too hot, it'll turn it on, and if it gets too cold, it'll turn it down. This side, I could go to the manual side, and it just will indicate what it needs to be. It'll bring it up according to it. So my fan speed right now is 100%, and you can look at the fan and see that it's turning very quickly. If you open that door, you can feel the air pull across you. Now if I turn it down, you can hear that it's slowing down the fan speed and adjusting it accordingly, and it'll just stay at that speed. I can manually control my up and down, whether the vent is open or not, or I could just shut it off and it'll just automatically close. The other thing that's neat about this is if you want to go out and you want to keep the fan on so that it's not hot when you come back, but you're a little worried about the rain, don't worry about it. This has a rain sensor in it that when it gets wet will automatically shut the lid. Then when it dries out, it'll open back up. So really, really nice fan setup. I really like them. They work really, really well, and I think you'll enjoy it too. Okay, so we're ready to look at the heater system. This is a Dometic thermostat. It's their new style thermostat. Got some good features. It does have a poor one I'm going to tell you about, but we'll discuss that in a minute. But to turn this thermostat, this actually controls, if you have two ACs, which this trailer does, it will control both ACs from this single thermostat. If you turn the power on here, hit the button once, you can see it's not on yet. Hit a second time, and then it comes on. Now right now it's set in the furnace mode. So if I come to the mode, I can change that to off, and it'll shut the heater off, or I could turn it to cool, and it'll turn the air conditioner on. So in each of the modes or the zones, it will you can change the different settings. Now this one here is in zone 1. I can change the zone with this button, which is zone 1 and zone 2. Now zone 2 is the bedroom, which the only thing on that is the air conditioner. So if I come back to zone 1, I turn the cool on, you can hear the AC running, and that will turn the AC on. I can change that to auto, which will, if I have it set to 70 degrees, or I could turn it to 75 degrees, it will automatically keep it at 75 degrees. Or I can turn it to furnace, which will turn the furnace on and off according to what my temperature is set at. I can go to fan. Fan controls the fan in the air conditioners. We'll turn that fan on without the air conditioning compressor coming on. Not sure why a person would want to use that, but it is available. This switch here, the fan, will turn your fans on high or low, which is indicated here. I would recommend just leaving it in the auto position and letting the thermostat do its thing. You can turn the clock on and see what time it is once it's set. Right now it's not set. You have an inside temperature button here, which will indicate, let me turn the clock back off. Okay, now it indicates the inside temperature as being 73 degrees inside. The other thing I can do is I can change that temperature to Celsius. And if you're Canadian and like to know what it is Celsius, you can see that. So that's a brief description of the thermostat. Works very, very, very well. With, I said that there was one downside of it. That is this button here, the program button. If at any time you see a program control on here and you're having troubles with your AC, give me a call and I will give you a system be able to shut that off. The program button was designed to be like your thermostat at home, where you can program it to come for the heater to come on at 8 o'clock in the morning and raise the temperature to 85 degrees. Then when you go to work, you don't want it to be 85 degrees, it'll bring it down to, say, 75 degrees. And then when you come home, you can set it to, at 4 o'clock, you can set it to come back to up to 85 degrees again. So that's what the program button is for. Actually doesn't work very well, and even admitted by Dometic. They indicate and recommend that people do not use it. And I don't know if it's an error with the thermostat or more just a difficult programming issue, but it causes problems for customers. If at any time your display reads program, what you do is press the zone and the mode and hold it down. When you do that, it'll come up and read oh, you got to turn it off first, sorry. And then take and hold zone and mode at the same time. You'll see that INIT let off, and it will go through and initialize the system. And once that's done, you can turn it off again, and that thermostat will be reset again. So that is the basics of everything you need to know about the thermostat. The other thing that we didn't talk about is our CO2 monitor and our propane monitor, which is down to the bottom of this cabinet. That indicates if there's any gas in the trailer or CO. CO is an odorless gas. Propane does smell, has a rotten egg smell. So oftentimes you can smell the propane, but the CO does not. If that goes off, open the door, clear things out, make sure that there's they get everything cleared back out, and you can reset it and shut the door again and make sure that everything's clear. Now other things can set that off. Cleaning supplies, hairspray, Glade push-ins. I've had Glade push-ins do it. So other things can set them off. So it doesn't always mean that you've got a problem with the trailer. Just open the door, change what you're doing inside, and see if it goes away. If you do need to shut off the propane, the only shut off is on the tanks themselves, and then of course your heater for the CO, or your water heater for the CO. And that's unburned fuels, which would be in your heater or your water heater. Okay, we have a fiberglass shower unit here. Nice shower. It has these glass shower doors that work very, very well. There is a travel latch here on the back that latches it so that the doors don't slide. You can imagine going down the road that them doors are going to slide like crazy. That's why they build the shower latch here so that you can latch it and it won't slide and break. I have seen glass shower doors break, so be sure and latch them. You have another fantastic fan in the bathroom. It's the same size fan, but it's called a Create Breeze in that it doesn't have the automatic controls. All your controls are here. You can take and crank the fan up with this valve here, or with this crank here, and then there's an override switch here in the wall. Oh, I turned the fans off. There we go. Now there's the fan switch there on that side. So you can turn your fans on here, override the fans here, and crank it up and down from here. These work the same way as your other ones, other than it's just an exhaust. You can run it at the same time as you do your other one, and again they run on 12 volts. Your GFI for the trailer is right here on this wall here. They work very similarly to your GFI at home. GFIs are required by code near water sources, so that's why it's by the sink. If that is to pop, none of your that 110 plugs in the entire trailer will work. So you could come in here, hit the reset button, and restart it again just like you do your one at home. One of the things that I forgot on the shower was the water saver shower head. The water saver shower head is for if you're dry camping. This switch here turns on and off the shower head. This one will change the different spray patterns. So kind of a neat little spray pattern. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different spray patterns. So that's kind of handy. But this on-off switch is very, very nice in that if you're dry camping, you're trying to conserve water. So if I was dry camping and trying to conserve water, I'm going to climb in the shower. I'm going to turn these on. Whoops! There's water pressure. I'm going to turn that on and get my temperature set to where I want it. And then I'm going to push this button on the end of the head, which will take and shut off the shower head. Then I'm going to get in the shower. I'm going to turn that on, get wet. I'm going to shut it off. Then I'm going to take in my soap and I'm going to soap down. Then I'm going to turn on, rinse off, and then I'm going to shut off. That way I can conserve water and be able to make that water pressure, or that water into my tank, go a little farther. Next we have toilets. RV toilets are a little different than your toilets at home in that, again, we're trying to conserve water in our trailer usually, and so we don't want to use 1 gallon to 2 gallons of water every time we flush the toilet. But at the same time, it's still very important that our solids drop into water and they're able to break down. So the way I'm going to use my toilet is I'm going to, before I ever go camping, I'm going to come in and I'm going to take and hold down my shower valve just a little bit. And what it's going to do is turn the water in and fill that bowl, but it's not going to open the flapper yet. Once that bowl is filled, then I'm going to take and push it all the way down and let the water go down. I'm going to do that about 5 or 6 times so that it's putting about 5 or 6 gallons of water down in my tank. That way, as I use my tank, it's going to drop my solids into water and chemical, which is going to start breaking things down. If I don't do that, what's going to happen is my tank is sloped and all my fluids are going to run to the one end of it and all my solids are going to pile up. So if we can drop them into water, that's going to help things break down, help control smells, and help break things down. Also, we have chemical available that you can put down the toilets to be able to help them to seal off. The other thing that's really useful for these is to put a seal conditioner on it. What it is some blue conditioner that you put on the seal, let sit for a day or two, and it conditions that seal. It's almost like putting Vaseline on the seal to help it from drying up and help it from getting seals that get dry and quit sealing and cost you money to be able to have to redo. Now we're in the bedroom of the trailer. We do have a king-size bed here. There is storage under the bed. One of the things to be kind of aware of on the bed is there's some hydraulic units under there, and this tray here does slide back and forth. It does not latch down. We have on occasion latched them down for people at request, but right now it currently is not. Be careful not to put too much weight on there. The other thing that happens sometimes is if things get between here and this panel here, this board breaks very easily in the front. So be sure and be careful not to get things wedged in between it and that sort of thing. But there is storage. This works really good for blankets and that sort of thing that can sit on top of it. Okay, other than that, we got some lights up underneath here. We have our lights, ceiling lights for the bedroom here. The TV, if you're in antenna mode or cable mode, that same mode works up here. So anything that you have down below, you can get up here on this TV here. There's not a DVD unit here. If you do decide to put a DVD unit up here, you'll have to have one that'll just sit on the countertop, or change the TV with a DVD unit in the side. We have travel latches here on our shower door, on our closet doors. Good sized closet in here. There is light inside with a push button switch on it. There's also hookups for washer and dryer up here, so that can be added if you decide to. You've got shoe racks in the back and another storage shed or storage drawer over here on the side. So good, nice walk-in shower, or walk-in. I keep wanting to call it showers and storages and everything else, but it is a closet. Be sure and hit the travel latches so that they don't swing back and forth and break. We have had customers do that. We have your, these are your return air vents for your air conditioning. You'll see similar ones in the back. This has what you call a quiet cool AC system, which is very, very quiet. And the reason it does it is it displaces the return air vents with the regular vents. Now these are your regular vents up here that your air conditioning comes out of. This here is a thermostat on the wall for the front AC to be able to tell the temperature in here. You do have some storage in this closet here, and a clothes hamper down in the bottom. So that's pretty much everything you need to know up here. The shades in the bedroom are not day-night shades like down below. It is strictly night shades, so it's got the dark covering, and they work the same as your other one. Just pull them down and let them come up, and then pull them down, and they'll latch. Okay, we're back to the Cedar Creek. Gonna go around the outside. Right here we have the propane. If you open up both valves on the propane, then it will automatically switch from one side to the other when you run out of propane on one tank. Right now you can see by the little notch here on this that it is green, meaning that it's got propane in it. If it wasn't full, then it would, if it was empty, it would read pink or red. This notch here indicates that it's pulling from this tank. So if I walk over and I see that it's red here and it's pointed to this tank, I know that this tank is empty. Now internally, inside the regulator, it will switch to this tank, which will automatically start pulling propane from this tank. Then I can switch this to this tank and undo this one and take it out and get it filled. So that's how the propane regulators work and the automatic switchover valves on them. Okay, inside here we have the central vacuum for the trailer. This is a nice little setup in that it sucks vacuum into the trailer and makes it so that you can use it as a vacuum. They work really well, work every bit as good as one at home. This one has never had the bag installed. It actually looks like it's been used a little bit. We'll just pull some of that out. We'll take one of our bags out here. And we're going to put it up in the inside of here like so. You just push it up on the cardboard and then it just fills up. Put the lid back on and it's all ready to go. So that's how you would change your vacuum bags, and how you get to the central vac to be able to get it to run. Now this comes shipped from the factory with the screw in this door here. It's up to you. I usually take the screws out so that you can access it easily. Some people want the screw back in, but we usually take them back out. So that's where your central vac is, and then all your attachments and your hoses and everything will be inside the trailer, and you can just use it inside there. On the outside, we have several different things. These are your outside speakers. We talked earlier about the A and B button, and B button being the outside speakers. Here we have a connector so that you can bring a TV outside and watch TV outside. You've got the connector here so that if it's in the antenna or cable position, you can watch the same thing outside. Here you have 110 volts where you can plug into it to be able to run a TV or other items, stereo, whatever you want. You got your fold-up steps here. We'll walk towards the back of the trailer. Here you have a crank for your rear, spare tire. So if you take your crank that's up front, put on there and spin that down, that will lower the tire down so that you can get to your tire and change the spare tire, change the tire on the trailer if you need to. Okay, here we have a ladder. They work really well. You have to be a little careful with them. If you weigh over probably somewhere around 260, 270, that might be starting to get a little heavy for the ladder. So be cautious of that. Up top we have the rear backup camera. There's a monitor that goes inside. It's already paired. The thing that you need to know about the backup camera is that in order for the camera to turn on, to look back, it's turned on, it's connected to the tail lights of the trailer. So you have to turn the lights on in your trailer to the park position so that it will turn the camera on at the same time. Most people don't realize that. Sometimes they're hooked to reverse lights, but this trailer doesn't have reverse lights, so they use the park lights. On our electrical connection for the trailer, this is a 50 amp service. The 50 amp plug is very, very large. This is your cord here. You can see by the size of the connection, it has some heavy terminals. You've got 4 of them. It can be a very big, heavy cord to get in and out of there, especially if you're just plugging it in to charge your batteries or that sort of thing. If you're going to be running your air conditioning, you want to pull the big cord out and hook it up. If you're just going to be at the house and want to plug it in so your batteries don't go dead and you can make sure your lights are working and everything, this is an adapter that we have that we sell inside that works really handy. Very light, you hook it up, put an adapter on that, hook it to an extension cord, and you can charge your batteries. You can even run your air conditioning a little bit for a little while, but over time you'll start to heat it up because it's a lot smaller cord than your other one, and your air conditioning pulls quite a few amps. But that's something we can do inside. I'm going to show you how to hook and disconnect your cord. Your other one will work very much the same, but we're just going to use this little one. So when you go to hook it up, you look on the sides and there's these little indents, and you line them up on the inside with the indents on the plug. That'll also line up the terminals inside. You push it in. If it won't push in, you're not in the right spot. And then once you get it in, turn it to the right, and that locks it, so I can't pull it back out. Also, this ring here threads on to keep all of it in there nice and tight and keep it from turning in and out. So that'll lock it on the trailer and help keep it in there so that you don't have problems with it coming loose later. The other thing that I want to tell you about is, especially if you're living in parks or places where you're not certain on power, or that they're known for having power issues. Trailers, about 3-4 times a year, we get a customer that comes in and gets a power surge, either from a lightning storm or from the electrical system that they're hooked on. We have adapters that you can hook into your cords that work just like a power strip at home, so that you don't burn up your computer. We have them for the trailers too. It's kind of an insurance policy for your trailer. Very reasonable when you consider the expense of the trailer and the electronics that it could burn up in there. Usually it'll take out a converter, often a microwave, and sometimes other electrical devices. Those are the two that it usually hits. So it's a good insurance policy. They run about 130 for 30 amp or 150 for 30 amp ones, and I think they're about a little over $200 for the 50 amp. Inside our control panel, there's several items in here that we'll need to go in depth on. Let's start with the battery disconnect. This here is set up so that you can easily disconnect all battery power from the trailer. The reason you want to do that is when this is in the on position like that, there's things in the trailer that will drain voltage from the battery over time. You'll have propane detectors that'll always draw power, memories for clocks and radios, some circuit boards. So there's items in there that will pull power all the time. When it's sitting and you're not using it, you don't want to do that. If it draws the batteries dead, it shortens the life of the batteries. Plus, if it's in the winter and it brings the battery voltage down to zero, then batteries can freeze. As long as that battery's charged, it will never freeze. So if we charge it up really good and then hit that disconnect to the off position, then that will keep it from freezing the batteries and or draining power out of the batteries. So it's a good thing to use. Here we have the fresh city connection. So you'll hook your hose from your water. You could bring it up through the bottom, through this hole here. You just pull that out, run your hose up through, connect it into here. Then, depending on what you're doing as far as camping, you can switch this from city to gravity. Now the gravity is for your water tank. So if you hook your hose here, leave it in the gravity position, and turn the water on, that will fill the tank. If you move it up, then it goes to city fill, which will be constant pressure to your city water. When you're in the city position, you really need to have a pressure regulator on there. That will keep things from overpressuring and breaking faucets and that sort of thing. You can't always rely on a park to have reliable pressure. So that's why we recommend the regulators. We'll show you them inside. Now we have the outside shower. You've got valves here, you've got a hose here. It just works like a spray off hose. You can pull it and it sprays. And then if you push on it here and pull out there, you can disconnect it so that it's not always hooked up, and then you can put it where you want it to be. On the these here are for winterizing. That's a discussion we need to have. If you are going to be sucking antifreeze into the trailer, you do that through this system. I'm not going to take the time to teach you how to use that unless you're actually going to do it. Most people will blow their trailers out. If you do that, what you're going to do is come back over to the freshwater system. We have an adapter inside. We can show you that you hook into there, hook an air compressor hose to it, and that adapter is regulated so that you won't blow things up. But you take and hook that in, then you go through the entire trailer and you turn each of your faucets on until they quit blowing water. At that point, all the water is out of the system. Be sure and drain your freshwater tank and put some antifreeze in your P-traps, and then you're all ready for winter. Nothing will freeze. But if you do decide you want to suck antifreeze through the trailer, you will do that through this, and we will need to take some time to explain that to you. This here is a black water flush, so once you've drained your tanks, you can hook a hose to it and turn it on, and that's got a little sprinkler inside the tank that takes and sprays and takes and washes out that black tank for you and helps you keep it clean. You remember on the inside I talked about a cable connection that I'd show you on the outside. That is right here on this one, labeled cable here. The other two are for satellite hookups. As I mentioned on the inside, if you decide to hook up satellite, give me a holler and we'll go over the different options and the different ways that it can be done and see what works best for you. But this is one of the ways you could connect here. There's also a set of hookups up on the roof in case you want to mount one on the roof. So that's the cable, or the satellite and the cable connections. These here are your valves for your water, for your sewer and your black tanks. The two gray ones are your gray tanks. The black one is your black tank. And they're labeled here on the side. Your gray ones, if you've got hookups, are okay to leave open and just let the waters run out. Your black tank, you want to let things build up on the inside. We talked about this when we talked about the toilet. You want water to in the bottom of that tank for solids to drop into. If you leave that black valve open while you have hookups, all the liquids will run out and all your solids start to mound up on the bottom of the tank. So we want to be sure and leave that closed, and then we, when our tank is full or we decide it's time to dump it, we can dump it. Go ahead and put another 5-10 gallons of water it back in and put some chemical, and we're ready to use our tank again. That pretty much takes care of everything in here except for these valves here. These valves here are for controls for each individual slide room. This has hydraulic slides in it. Now maybe I get somewhere where I can't get all my slides out, or maybe I want to open my kitchen slide but not my bedroom slide for whatever reason. I can come in here and turn these valves on and off. Here's the bedroom, here's the opposing, which would be our kitchen slide, and our main slide, which is the dining slide on the other side. So I could just turn that valve to off and then open the door, or turn on the slide switch on the inside, or there's another switch I'll show you here in a minute, and that will allow all the slides to come out except for the ones you've turned off. Minutes ago when we talked about the slide valves, turning them on and off, I told you about another switch where you could run the slides from the outside. That would be this switch here. By turning that on and off, you can take and go up for in and out for reverse, and bring your slides in and out with that switch. Now I got to caution you with that. Every time I've ever known anyone to do any damage to the inside of their trailer from a slide, it's usually been because they're running it out here and don't see that something is in the road, or that a door was left open, a cabinet door, or something like that. So be careful, but that option is available. You can always still use the slide switch on the inside. Here we have leveling controls. This is a little different setup than the newer ones, but I'll go through and show you how this works. If we turn it on here, it comes up and it says jacks down, meaning all the jacks are down. It is already leveled. If it wasn't leveled, I'd hit auto level and it would go through a sequence of leveling it. You just stand back and watch it do its thing, and it'll come out completely level. If it's not level when it's done with the auto level, it needs to be reset, and that's just something that we can do here at the dealership for you. But then when I go to hook up my trailer, I'm going to come over and I am going to there's a couple things we can do. We can hit retract, and we could bring our front jacks up, or we could bring our rear jacks up. If we take it off retract, we could bring our front jacks up or down so that the trailer comes up, and we can do the same thing with the rears. This light in the middle indicates that it's level. If it's not level, you can see by, if I raise this up, now that is going to show, the red is going to show that it keeps pointing up in that it's not level. So there's lots of things that the indicators will do here. From there, if I go to hook to the trailer, I'm going to go ahead and raise my jacks up. I'm going to pull the trailer, or the truck, up under the trailer, and then I'm going to hit retract, hit my front jack, and I'm going to bring the trailer down until it is on the ball or around the kingpin, depending on what kind of hitch I have. Once that is locked, then I'm going to come into my controls here, and I'm going to scroll down. Right there it tells me what the battery level is. That tells me side to side. Right now it's showing that it's plus 1 degree to the right side. If I go to this one, front to rear, that's showing that it's going back and forth from minus 1 degree to the rear. If I go another one, it shows auto retract. Now them other settings you may or may not use, but the auto tract you will. If you go to the auto tract, once your pin box or your whatever you're using for a hitch on the front is fully connected so that it can't slide off or come loose from the rear hitch on the truck, you can hit enter, and I'm not going to do that now because what will happen is every one of the jacks will pull all the way to the top position. So you want to be sure you're latched there. If not, what it'll do is it'll set the front of the trailer down on the back of the bed of your truck, causing damage to your truck and the trailer. So a handy feature, really nice to use, but just hit enter and it'll bring all the jacks up and you can walk away and do whatever you need to do to get ready, and it'll just do it on its own. The only other thing we have here is our batteries. They're 6-volt batteries. They're hooked up with, in a series, 6 plus 6 equals 12, so it becomes a 12-volt system at that time, just like stacking flashlight batteries in a flashlight. It's the same concept with these. The batteries work very, very well. They last really well, both in longevity of use over several years, and also on longevity of use on the short-term basis as far as not running your batteries dead. Hook the two batteries, positive and negative, between the two batteries, and then hook the positive of the trailer to the positive terminal on one battery, and the negative terminal on the trailer to the negative on the battery of the other battery, and then you're completely connected. Good battery setup. Again, be sure and use your kill switch. Keep them charged. The other thing you'll want to do is take the lid off the batteries here and look inside of it and check for level of water in the batteries. That's very important because that level of water is what keeps them plates wet and keeps them alive. If you let that get down, it actually kills the plates and shortens the life of the batteries. Okay, the only other two things that I know that we've missed is we have low point drains here. Theoretically, that is the low point of your trailer. Before you winterize it and blow it out, you could take and disconnect them plugs down there and get most of the water out of the system. Put them plugs back in, hook up your air compressor, blow everything out, and then you'll be completely blown out. I talked about your drain for the fresh tank. That is going to be under the trailer and behind the rear axle, and it's right there. You can see the white spigot there behind the tire. That is going to be the drain for your fresh tank, and that's how you're going to drain your fresh tank. And that pretty much completes the walkthrough on this trailer. Now we just need to hook up.